Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks.
Welcome, guys. This is the Couch Quarterbacks. We have a Week 2 preview ready for you all. I am Ben Steinberg. Joined with me, as always, is Andrew Rochford. Andrew, say hi to everyone out there.
What's going on, everybody? And like Stein said, we've got an exciting Week 2. After a great Week 1, we hop right on in to the following week. Had a great Thursday night game last night as well. We're going to recap that. We're going to have our first punishment of the season. Stein goes down in the Week 1 record book, but we'll have our picks again for this upcoming Week 2 matchup, see if he can avenge himself this upcoming week.
Yeah, we're both already 1-0. We did pick the Washington football team to win last night. We just kind of credited a better defense against an offense that we both thought was anemic. And we kind of thought that's kind of a great segue into this game. We kind of thought this was going to be a laugher in terms of, defensively, like a 13-3, a 13-10 kind of ball game. It actually got up there in the scoring a little bit. The over hit, probably.
Yeah, and it was actually a really good ball game and a one that the Giants should have won, but Washington football team ends up getting a game-winning field goal. They win 30-29 at the end, but the storyline of the day is just the missed opportunities from the Giants. I mean, the holding penalty that took away a 58-yard touchdown run from Daniel Jones, that took away a touchdown, led to a field goal on the scoreboard. Darius Slayton dropped a wide open pass. He was so open, there was no one within like 15 yards of him, and he was ever so slightly overthrown by Daniel Jones, but definitely a catchable football that Darius Slayton dropped that would have been a touchdown there. And then, of course, at the very end of the game, you have the offside penalty on Dexter Lawrence. Dustin Hopkins missed the game-winning 48-yard field goal because of the offside penalty. Untimed down, 43-yard field goal goes up, and of course he makes it because, you can't miss 2 field goals in a row, right?
No, that's kind of like the classic, at least they didn't call a timeout or something. Jason Garrett is on that Giants sideline, which is funny, as the offensive coordinator. They didn't call a timeout, to ice him, and then he misses the first one, makes the second one, as happens a lot. Ends up making the game-winning kick. And I would almost say a very statement win for the Washington football team, because we both predict that this is going to be one of the better teams in the NFC East, and they're beating this Giants team. Kind of puts them in firm, control. I mean, the Eagles are still 1-0, but this is the first actual divisional matchup between any of these teams. So it's definitely a good building block for them. And you really got to look at the guy who led this team, and Taylor Heinicke.
Yeah, I mean, he had over 300 passing yards last night. He threw the ball 46 times, which you really don't want if you're the Washington football team. They were trailing for the majority of the ball game.
You have
so
Antonio Gibson, to run the ball, and he had some great runs of 6+ yards every once in a while.
I was gonna say he didn't overall had a great game on the stat line, but Heinicke did have a really bad interception as Washington football team was up 1 late in the ball game, and instead they had a couple of nice runs with Gibson. Could have just kept running the clock, make the Giants use their timeouts, but they come out of a Giants timeout, throw the football, and I think it was James Bradbury that ended up jumping the route and got 24. The interception, which led to the go-ahead field goal by the Giants, which, I mean, ended up not making the difference, but because it's the Giants, they were able to find a way to lose the ball game.
Yeah, I mean, we could see this kind of being the story for the Giants of just finding funny ways to lose games. And coming into this game, the Giants were 5-0 in the last 5 against the Washington football team.
I didn't realize that until I heard it actually after the game, which I thought was very surprising.
And so a great statement win.
Daniel Jones actually played good in this ball game.
The sad thing is 249 yards and 1 touchdown throwing and 1 touchdown rushing. Those are good for him, where those would just be pretty good numbers for,
Well, I would say the good part was he had 9 rushes for 95 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, he should have had 2 rushing touchdowns over 100 yards rushing. And then the big thing, no turnovers against this Washington football team defense, which we know was a top 5 defense coming into this season. He kind of carved them up a little bit.
Yeah, but we were seeing them get into the backfield every once in a while. A few tackle for losses for the Washington football team.
They definitely still got their sacks and stuff. The Giants' offensive line is absolutely awful.
Yeah, and we did see one of the offensive linemen go down, carted off. I forgot his name.
He broke his Gates is the last name.
Yeah, that's not a great name for an offensive lineman.
Broke his leg and he's out for the season now, which was a pretty gruesome injury.
I think he was a captain too. I did see he had the captain's patch. So
just another big loss for the Giants' offensive line, but
an offensive line that struggled. And I guess a big testament to the struggles was Saquon. You need a good offensive line for a good running back. He pretty much had one good rush, which was probably maybe a 20-yard rush, and that was it.
That's what he had. It was a 41-yard rush that he had early on in the ball game. So overall, he was 13 carries, 57 yards. So if you take that one away, that's 12 carries for 16 yards for Saquon.
Jesus. And no touchdowns.
No touchdowns. The snap
wasn't
count
really much of a threat in the passing game.
Yeah, he had 2 catches for 12 yards. But the one promising thing is the snap count was up 48% in week 1, up to 84% this past week. So he's at least on the field more. You saw him making a little more cuts, kind of dancing around, trying to make guys miss. So just showing a little bit more confidence in that knee, that it's getting stronger. So it's just going to take time for Saquon to come around. And for someone like you, Stein, who drafted him in the first round of your fantasy drafts, if he's ever going to come around this season, you're probably not going to see it for another couple weeks.
It's a really sticky situation because this is a guy that a lot of people used a first or a second on. And, by all accounts, you should be starting these guys every single week. Just the fact that he's been stuck in the mud, because Saquon, it was probably picked, maybe 10th or 9th?
Like you said,
drafts.
Back of the first round or the second round.
So it's not like, there was not that many great options running back-wise that you would have been like, oh, I'm going to take over Saquon. So that kind of put me in a sticky situation. I think as the season goes on, he'll get to where he needs to be. I mean, I think this could be more of a rushing Giants attack, especially with Daniel Jones and him.
They ran, I don't know how many read options last night, and they were still biting on Saquon, and Daniel Jones would just pull it out and then run to the other side and get a nice pickup. So
I mean, teams got to watch film. They're going to see this RPO or just the read option in general, and they're going to see that it's either going to go to Saquon, and they got to bite on somebody. So it's, hopefully they can get into the flat. And we saw that 41-yard, rush that kind of was like, all right, this in SpongeBob, this is what now? Yeah, this is what we've been waiting for. Exactly, fantasy owners. That should have been the gif of the night. But final point of this game was kicking battle. I know you're a big FSU
battle
guy.
of the FSU alums, Graham Gano and Dustin Hopkins. 8 for 8 total on the night. Gano was 5 for 5. Hopkins 3 for 3 with the game winner. So if you had either of those guys in fantasy,
Graham Gano had 22 points. Guys, come on, you kicker.
The one week that you're playing against him in fantasy. So
I know.
A
kicker on the Giants too, a team that I expected to score 10 points in this game.
Yeah, so a good showing from him, and I think as Taylor Heineke, just one last thing, is he gets his first NFL win. I think it's promising to see from the Washington football side of things. With Ryan Fitzpatrick going down, Heineke can step up, and even in games where they're trailing, he's able to throw the football, because he's kind of been known as a guy more like using his legs and not as much as a passing quarterback, but he showed that he can.
He's also been known as a stopgap quarterback. Yeah. I mean, this guy, I like his story. I like what he's going to be able to do for the team, but a lot of people are still thinking that, next draft or even the following draft is where the Washington football team is going to get its, quarterback. But if Heineke sticks, Washington could have a lot more options where they can go offensive line or, someplace future. Obviously, this is down the road, but Heineke showed what he can do, and he can win games for them, and that's all they need.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, take it with a grain of salt, that was the Giants' defense, not as the best thing in the world, so we'll see later on in the season how he steps up against
Not really going to have to
better.
face many hard defenses in his division, but we'll see when he faces those out-of-division defenses.
And now the Giants next week play the Atlanta Falcons, so they have a couple extra days rest before they have a matchup.
Oh goodness, I didn't even think about week 3, but anyways, guys, the time has come.
Oh man, this is gonna be my favorite part of the show.
It's gonna be nice when you do it next week.
Yeah, so we have our first punishment of the season. So if you don't know, if you haven't watched some of our previous podcasts, every single week we're gonna pick the winners for the upcoming matchups. And whoever loses for that week is gonna have to do the punishment. Yeah. So I went 9-6 on the first week. Stein went 7-8.
It was the Raiders game.
It came all the way down to the Monday night game.
I even wanted the Raiders to win at the end, just because of the game. But we're gonna keep a running total throughout the season, just for kicks and giggles, you know.
Yeah.
But for every week, that's we'll keep the total based on the week, not like a total. The running total will just be, you know, just for stats.
Yeah.
So without further ado,
All right, I got my wheel on my phone.
Yeah, you want to read some of the highlights?
Yeah, some of the good ones. You have the one chip challenge on here. You have wax strips. Drive all of 285. That was what I
thought of, because I've done that before. Like when I had the Coco back in pretty much last year around this time.
Some painful ones. You got a 5-star. You got a whipped cream slap.
The one chip challenge is not going to be painful.
A lot of these are painful. Probably the easiest one is just Venmo $10.
Yeah, that one I could just pull out my phone and do easily.
But without further ado, I'll end up. I'm screen recording right now, so I'll put it up on the screen. But let's spin this.
We are going to try to
wheel.
invest into a bigger wheel where you can like write stuff with an expo marker, but right now
make a TikTok.
Oh god.
It's probably your least favorite one that you ended up wanting to get on here.
That one could have been worse. Do you have a TikTok account?
I don't.
Okay, I don't have a TikTok account either.
Well, it looks like Stein's going to be making a TikTok account.
Well, we need people that we know to follow it. So we might have to bring in our friend Brianna or some of the other girls that we know that have TikToks, so that I can, you know, get their follower
on
they
their
can
account.
Retweet or what. Yeah, something like that.
Well, I mean, we'll put it up on our own Instagram page as well.
So what we'll do is we'll do the small face, pretty face, or the big bank one.
Yeah, we'll decide which one we want to do, and of course I'll edit it and put it into this show. We'll put it up.
I'm sure we'll make it a reel too. We'll make it a reel.
Well.
But I'll try to look as TikTok-y as the kids look, you know.
But yeah, so I guess we'll cut away to that now.
Berries and cream, berries and cream. I'm a little lad who loves berries and cream. Up the octave, go for it. Berries and cream, berries and cream. I'm a little lad who loves berries and cream. Easy peasy.
And we are back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that nice TikTok of Stein.
You know, it felt right. Roach, it felt right. I've been poo-pooing TikTok for a while. No, I'm just kidding. I fucking hate TikTok. I know. I'm going to say that. If this is a podcast, I can say fucking, I can say nope. I can say anything I want to. I fucking hate TikTok. It is a disease.
But anyways, let's get back into the football part and the main point of this podcast. Let's get into our Week 2 preview. Once again, a full slate of games, no bye weeks yet into the season. And without further ado, let's hop right into the 1 o'clock games, with the first one we'll talk about being the Cincinnati Bengals, 1-0 on the season, versus the Chicago Bears, who took that rough Sunday Night Football loss to the Rams.
Battle of the Midwestern B teams. Now, this is an orange. If you like orange, this game's for you.
Yeah, two different shades of orange.
Two different shades of orange. If you like two franchises that are on similar trajectories, this game could be for you too. This is going to be an interesting one. It's in Chicago. You know, this is kind of the quintessential Chicago 1 o'clock kickoff game. Last week, we saw Andy Dalton, not what people wanted out of Andy Dalton, but what people expected out of Andy Dalton, I guess.
I was going to say, Andy Dalton wasn't good. It probably doesn't help. Justin Fields got a rushing touchdown in one of his 3 touches in the ball game, so I don't know how Matt Nagy's going to split up the carries, maybe get him
Andy
a little
Dalton
more work.
has some like blackmail pictures of Matt Nagy or that whole that offensive staff. It's going to be interesting because could we see more Fields in this game? You know, I did hear that there was like a handshake agreement that Dalton was going to be the guy, you know, for a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, they said at the signing that he was at least going to be the Week 1 starter, so he was the Week 1 starter. He actually played the majority of the ball game. There really hasn't been much that's come out since then about what's going to happen in terms of the snap percentage for each guy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Fields out there maybe for a drive or two.
Yeah, maybe they let off a little bit more with the training wheels, kind of let him get out maybe 2 or 3 drives even out of this, especially if they're in garbage time, because this game, you know, the way the Bengals played Week 1 could be, you know, pretty in the bag by the 3rd or 4th quarter for the Bengals, and that's why I'll go ahead and say that I have the Bengals winning this one, and I just think that's because Joe Burrow and the offense, we thought they were going to be not as good as they were. They were great Week 1, and they got a pretty similar matchup against the Bears defense Week 2, so it's kind of be the same story. And this Bears offense is just not good enough for even a bad Bengals defense.
Yeah, this was one I kind of went back and forth on because when you think of the Bears, it's like, okay, you're not facing a Rams caliber defense with the Bengals.
Yeah.
When you think of the Bengals, you're facing a much tougher defense than the Vikings defense that they faced last week, and they barely pulled away and got the victory in that ball game. So this was one I kind of went back and forth on, but kind of like what you were saying, I'm very confident in the Bengals offense and Joe Burrow, just all the
Which is
skill,
weird to say.
all the skill guys that he's got around him. When you talk about Mixon, Higgins, Jamar Chase having that great first game, so I think the Bengals are going to win this one on the road, but it's going to be a very close ball game.
Yeah, this is going to be another close one. I said it's probably going to be decided towards the end, and what I meant by that is, they're probably one team's going to get an extra score or something that's going to kind of put this one to bed. Fantasy-wise, let's talk about who's looking good. Mixon, that whole offense,
Yeah, I would start Mixon, start T. Higgins. With Jamar Chase, how good he was last week and leading the team in receiving, I'd say give him another go, even against a tougher Chicago defense. I would start him.
Play the hot hand. I mean, it's the connection's starting to look good. Burrow,
I would say give him a stream. I mean, with how he played last week, he got 20-plus fantasy points. Like, it's a little bit of a tougher defense, but I think there's worse quarterbacks out there that you could go for. So I would stream Burrow in this ball game. And Tyler Boyd, I would sit him just because he's the third receiver on this team.
He's competing with two other guys now because we thought Chase could maybe not have as big of a role as he had. But if he develops more into that role, then Boyd's going to be the guy who's kind of going to miss out.
Boyd will have his games throughout the season. It's just going to be hard to pick which game it's actually going to be, and I don't think it's going to be against this Bears team.
Yeah. For the Bears-wise, Montgomery is going to be a good start running the ball. Allen Robinson.
You got to start him. I mean, he's the number one target on this Bears team.
And stay away from quarterbacks there. I don't care if you're in dire straits with your quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't start Dalton. Fields, you just don't trust him to be on the field enough to start him.
Unfortunately, I have to start Fields in a league, and that's a whole nother story. But, after last week's performance, a touchdown, that could, work in my favor.
Yeah.
Colt Kmet, not as hot of a start as I thought he would get off to.
I think he's got a little bit of stream appeal just because of how thin the tight end position is, and he played out there the majority of the snaps last week.
He's the best tight end in this game overall, compared to what the Bengals have thrown out there. So probably the best tight end, but just nothing you would want to start unless you're, in a situation. You had the Bengals too.
Yep. And let's move on to the next game, which is the Houston Texans, the 1-0 Houston Texans against the 0-1 Cleveland Browns. If I told you going into week 2 that the Texans would be the team with the win week 1, then...
I mean, we'll look at the teams that they played. Yeah, the Chiefs and the Jags.
That's a good point, too. But the Browns are a 12.5-point favorite in this game.
The Browns are going to be mad. This is going to be a ground and pound kind of game for the Browns offense.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Baker throws 10 passes at the most.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a Jameis Winston type performance in terms of the passes, where I only have about 15-20 passes in this ball game.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to have to do a lot, and that's because the Browns are going to be running the ball with, it's called the Chunt.
Chunt? Okay.
The Chunt.
Not the hub?
I like the Chunt. The Chunt offense. So that's going to be just the name of the game. Texans... Taylor looked good. We got to give credit to the Texans and Tyrod Taylor.
It was the Jaguars, but their whole entire offense has a much tougher test against this Cleveland Browns defense. Yeah. Tyrod Taylor, this is a revenge game for him. Remember, he was back on Cleveland in 2018. He was the starter for like the first 4 or 5 games of the season before Baker took over in the back half of that season. So maybe a little extra anger in him.
I don't really see this as much of a revenge game for Tyrod Taylor.
I feel like this is probably the most you have to say it's a revenge game because he played for the old team, but it's not actually going to be a revenge game.
Yeah, definitely predicting the Browns defense to play as they played well against the Chiefs. They're going to play well against a not as talented in any sort of stratosphere as the Chiefs offense with the Texans offense. On the Browns side of the ball, OBJ did get ruled out. That came out yesterday. Won't be playing.
It was on Wednesday that it came out.
Wednesday.
So that's what he was expected to play week 1, and then he was kind of a surprise late inactive. Remember, it came down to the wire on Sunday. He was in the 4 o'clock slot. We found out about it I think during the 1 o'clock window.
Yeah.
And then being ruled out on Wednesday going into this week, that's got to be very concerning for him coming back from that ACL injury to be ruled out so quickly into the week when week 1 he almost was suited up and went out there.
Yeah. But the fact he's going to be out kind of goes to my point that this is going to be more of a ground and pound offense.
Yeah, the Browns should be up early and pretty much this whole ball game, and I think we both have the Browns winning this ball game.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those games on Red Zone where there's going to be, all right, we cut to the Browns. They're about
just show this touchdown real quick, and then
show
go
a Kareem
back.
Hunt touchdown or a Nick Chubb touchdown.
Yeah. In terms of fantasy, Stein, great to get into that. The Texans, really the only guy you can start is Brandon Cooks, I think. They're going to be trailing in this game. They're going to be throwing the football. He had a great fantasy performance in week 1.
If you're desperate, Taylor maybe as a stream.
I wouldn't even start him just against the Browns team. Don't start any of those running backs. You saw all 3 of them get touchdowns last week. You don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mess in the backfield for them.
And then for the Browns, you can start Chubb, start Kareem Hunt, of course, the 2 running backs. Start Jarvis Landry with OBJ out. He'll still be the number 1 option in the receiving game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Browns' defense against the Texans' offense. And you can stream Baker, but I would kind of proceed with caution because, like we said, he could end up only passing the ball 15 to 20 times in a ball game. Even when they scored 29 points last week against the Chiefs, he didn't have a single touchdown in that game. It was a rushing touchdown for Jarvis Landry and then 2 for Chubb, 1 for Hunt. So he didn't have a single passing touchdown last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if he only had 1 or 2 in this ball game.
Yeah, and then tight end wise, really nothing special.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust Austin Hooper. David Njoku was the leading receiver last week, and then they have Harrison Bryant as well. So they have
3 tight ends that they can use. So it's not like they have one guy that they really can rely on. So it's going to be a lot of mouths to feed there.
Mm-hmm.
We both have the Browns. Moving on to a interesting matchup, the Rams go across the country to play the Colts.
Yeah, the Rams coming off the Sunday Night Football victory against the Bears. The Colts suffering that tough loss to the Seahawks.
Real quickly, I want to plug the Colts. We'll be doing mid-season Hard Knocks. I don't know if you saw that yesterday.
I didn't see that.
Last night at halftime, they had
Were the viewings that bad for...
I don't know. I mean, the Cowboys kind of was like, the ratings were going to be down. They don't have a lot of stories. I think Dak was their only story. So the Colts are going to be having, in November... Hard Knocks. It's going to be interesting. They're calling it the playoff push for the Colts. I don't know if they'll be
I'm not sure how the ratings would be for that, but I feel like the ratings were so bad for their preseason one that they're like, all right, we got to get the viewership up. Let's do one for a playoff push. And with the Colts, a team that should be in the playoff hunt.
They'll be in the hunt for the wild card, or if not their division, maybe.
Yeah, so I think it could be pretty successful, but no, I did not hear about that.
Yeah, so that should be interesting. But moving on to this game. Rams, 2 good defenses going. This is going to be a battle of the defenses.
Yeah, who did the Colts piss off? Where they got to face the Seahawks week 1, and then the Rams, the NFC West we were talking about being the toughest division in all of football.
You probably have the Cardinals and the 49ers back to back next.
Yeah, in the back half of the season or something like that. But like you said, the Rams have to travel to the Eastern time zone. I think this is going to be a close ball game, and like I said, the Rams coming off the great week 1, Colts. Defense got exposed a little bit by the Seahawks, but I think this is a great opportunity for them to kind of step up and redeem themselves.
This is pretty much like the exact same matchup as last week offensively for the Colts. Mm-hmm. So it's I think the Seahawks and the Rams are so similar that this is going to be a very similar style game, and I think the Rams are going to take this one.
Yeah, I've got the Rams winning this one also. That just a great offensive performance. It seems like a great tandem between McVay and Stafford has already been forming, and I think the offense is just going to overpower the good Colts defense, and they're going to come away with the victory.
We both think the Colts are a good team. They're just running into 2 better teams right now.
They
don't get the Texans for a few weeks.
I was going to say Carson Wentz, it's like just trying to get his feet under him. He has the the literal foot injury where he sat out most of the preseason, and then he's got 2 tough matchups to start off. So
and we talked about the receivers in the last game for the Colts. Like, that was just non-factor.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, getting into fantasy with talking about the receivers, I wouldn't trust any of them. You have Zach Pascal caught 2 touchdowns. Don't expect that every single week. Michael Pittman's supposed to be the number 1. Posted a dud week 1. Paris Campbell, no. No. The tight ends, no. The only guy that I would start on this team is Jonathan Taylor. I wouldn't start Carson Wentz either, even though he had an okay performance last week. But Jonathan Taylor and maybe Nyheim Hines if you're in a PPR league, those would really be the only 2 guys on the Colts side.
And then Rams side of the ball, pretty much everyone on offense is going to be a viable option.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford, of course, at quarterback. Henderson at running back. Sony Michel still hasn't done a whole lot.
Did not have a great week 1 at all.
He had like 1 or 2 carries in the fourth quarter of the ball game. They said
really
he's still getting used to the playbook. So Henderson is still fire him up as a running back 2 or flex. Start both the wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I would stay away from Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, just the boom-bust wide receiver 3s for them.
Yeah.
Start Tyler Higbee. He was out there 100% of the time in their game as being the only tight end. And start the Rams defense as well.
Oh yeah, definitely a good start with the Rams defense. And then Higbee, had a good week 1, and just think that he's going to help build his reputation from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to a divisional matchup. I think our second divisional matchup that we're talking about. Actually, no. Our first interdivisional matchup of this week.
I was going to say, we talked about the Thursday night game with the divisional matchup.
Yes, that was a divisional matchup.
We got the Bills 0-1 on the season, coming off the loss to Pittsburgh, facing the Dolphins, who edged out the Patriots last week.
Yeah. So, very interesting matchup because Dolphins win this one. They're in sole possession of the AFC East. But you have a Bills team that's probably pretty pissed off from their loss with the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's what Josh Allen in his career is 5-1 versus Miami. So he's just had a great overall record versus this team. Like you said, the Bills coming off a tough week 1 loss. I think that they're going to bounce back in a big way, and I've got the Bills winning this ball game.
Yeah. Game is in Miami. Not much of a home field advantage, honestly. It'll be nice and hot for the Bills, so they'll be able to get this one and get the win. Just because they're going to be pissed off, and I think they learned some stuff that they need to do better week 1. Because I still think this is one of the top AFC teams.
Yeah, just to clean up some stuff with some fantasy implications. Sean McDermott said today that he indicated that Zach Moss will be active this week. He was a surprise inactive for week 1. Apparently, he had some health concerns, which is why
kind
he
of
was
a last-minute inactive for them.
But he hinted today in the press conference that he would probably be out there for week 2, so that definitely hurts anyone that's got Devin Singletary because they kind of form a timeshare at the running back position for the Bills. And then Will Fuller, of course, coming over to the Dolphins this offseason of free agency. He was finishing up his 6-game suspension from last season, missed week 1, and he's now going to miss week 2, even though he was eligible to return with a personal issue.
Yeah, that news came out on a couple days ago, and so that's interesting. Will Fuller, is going to be back,
and apparently the Dolphins are kind of concerned that it may be longer than just this week with the personal issue. So
you never want to assume anything for a guy. You hope that this personal issue can get over. Dolphins are pretty good in the receiving core. They have a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, they have one of the deepest receiving cores in the league.
Yeah.
In terms of fantasy stuff with those receivers, I would say stream Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle. Waddle had the touchdown last week.
Waddle.
Parker led the team in receiving, so I would stream either one of them, hoping one has a good game, maybe both of them.
Yeah.
And then besides that, for the Dolphins, start Myles Gaskin, but I wouldn't go after Tua or anyone else on this team.
Tua hasn't done anything. Just Gesicki,
he had like 1 target last week. He was the third in snap count for tight end.
Yeah,
so stay
it was
away
interesting.
from him.
From a guy who was successful the year before. Bills. Pretty much, you want to stick with Josh Allen. He's going to be your quarterback 1. Stephon Diggs, hopefully will have a better...
wide receiver 1.
Yeah, wide receiver 1. Bills' defense could be interesting, especially with Tua. Still haven't seen Tua really have that quintessential game, so This could be a game where the Bills defense is going to feast on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills defense is better than the Patriots defense, and the Patriots defense held him to about 200 passing yards and one touchdown. So I would fire up the Bills defense. And then Cole Beasley and, like I said, Devin Singletary, I would say stream both of them. Singletary, risky, just with Zach Moss coming back. You don't know how much he's going to be used.
Yeah, I'd stay away from Moss or Singletary personally, just because you don't know how it's going to happen with those guys.
And then Beasley had 13 targets last week. So just in terms of getting looks, I think he could be decent, especially for PPR.
Yeah. All right, moving on to another divisional matchup. So I guess the AFC East is just playing each other. I was
going to say, this is like your last week of the season matchup where you got to finish out all your divisional opponents.
Yeah. Patriots at Jets, the battle of the first round rookies, Mac Jones versus Zach Wilson. Two guys who both didn't look terrible in their first games.
Yeah, that's going to be the big storyline from this ball game, is just having the two rookies out there facing off against each other. Of course, Mac Jones surprisingly dropping to the middle of the first round to the Patriots, Zach Wilson being the second overall pick in the draft. And on the Patriots side of the football, they got some running back fumbling problems as Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson both fumbled in the ball game. Harris had that late fumble that cost the Patriots that ball game. And apparently some of the Patriots beat guys are saying that Harris may get some of his carries peeled back a little bit, which is interesting because he's the best running back on their team.
Yeah. Kind of emerged as a running back one despite his fumbles, and that that's going to be the knock on him going forward.
And Bill has always had the rotation of running backs in there. They of course still have James White on that team getting the third down work. So we'll see how it ends up shaking out. I think Harris will still get the majority of these carries, especially because the Patriots will probably be leading for the majority of this ball game.
Yeah, I think the story of this game, besides the quarterbacks, is I think the Patriots are going to feast on a Jets offensive line that's not going to be able to protect Zach Wilson. I could see four plus sacks in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he was sacked 6 times by the Dolphins defense who the Jets playing last week?
They played
Panthers.
The Panthers.
Yeah.
So this could be the situation where they are not going to be able to. They're going to be in third and longs a lot, and then it could end up in a sack. So I think that's going to be the Patriots' way to win. So I have the Patriots winning, and you have the Patriots winning as well.
Yeah, I like I said, I think they're going to be leading early, and then just kind of rely on the ground game to lead them to victory.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson could have a nice game on the stat sheet just because should be throwing the ball a lot, and the Jets have 0 run game in general.
Yeah.
But looking into that fantasy outlook for the Jets,
really none of these guys I love. So
yeah, Zach Wilson, you're probably only going to be starting if you're in a dynasty or super flex type league. So in terms of just a standard league, I would stream Corey Davis, and that's about it. But the concerning thing for Corey Davis owners is that Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole could both be back this week. Crowder's dealing with a groin injury, got activated off the COVID list, and then Keelan Cole, I think, is an ankle injury, but both have a possibility of playing, so that could hurt Corey Davis's value.
Yeah. For the Patriots, despite Harris's fumbles, could still be a good guy to start. Jonnu Smith has really emerged as the tight end one.
Yeah, he got the majority of the snaps compared to Hunter Henry last week. He had the better ball game. So if you're starting 2 of those tight ends, I would start
Jonnu over over Hunter Henry.
Yep.
Patriots defense, pretty much anyone facing this Jets offense is a good start. Yeah. So that just goes without saying, even though they have some names on that defense still. Mac Jones still remains to be seen what he can do, but he was pretty good in his first game.
Yeah,
could have another decent game.
I was gonna say he's a stream at best, but the one thing that's concerning is that if they get out to a very early lead and they kind of go away from the passing game, then it's gonna kind of limit
run the ball.
Yeah, that's gonna limit his ceiling. But I think just because you're playing the Jets team, he's at least worth a last chance look. And then the basically 2 wide receiver ones, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers. I think both of those guys could have a streaming value, just hoping that whichever one you end up picking gets in the end zone.
Yeah, one of them is going to be better than the other. Mm-hmm. Moving on to the 49ers, the undefeated Niners taking on the undefeated Eagles. I know they're both 1-0, but this game is not going to be as close as the records say. Let's start off with the Niners offense, and the most interesting thing has been Brandon Ayuk has been having a lot of smoke.
Yeah,
from him.
there's a lot of headlines for this 49ers offense. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk is one of them, and Kyle Shanahan came out this week after Ayuk didn't even get a target in the Week 1 game.
Needs to learn how to be a better pro, and now they're saying he's got to be better than the guy behind him. So
Trent Sherfield outsnapped him 27-26. He had a touchdown in Week 1 against the Lions. But Brandon Ayuk, he was dealing with the hamstring injury throughout training camp, so they said that kind of led into it as well. But if you're an Ayuk fantasy owner, I wouldn't panic too much. I think he'll be back out there, be the starter. Maybe not this week. Hopefully, at least outsnap Sherfield.
Yeah.
But I think in the upcoming weeks, he'll be back out there.
You got to imagine that Debo is not going to have as good of a game as he did Week 1 in this matchup against the Eagles. Also, in terms of running backs for the Niners, Raheem Mostert was originally had a timetable of 6 to 8 weeks with his with what was it, knee surgery?
He had a bone cartilage chip in his knee.
Well, it turns out that this is going to be season ending, and this is literally like, I feel like we're deja vu with the Niners with running backs with season-ending surgery.
And especially with Mostert, too. I mean, he got 2 carries, and he was out of the ball game Week 1. Like I said, when we were talking about our recap, the original timetable was 6 to 8 weeks. And then Mostert himself posted on social media saying that he was going to undergo season-ending surgery. So just devastating for a guy that was a late bloomer into this league a couple years ago, kind of burst onto the scene when he was 26 or 27.
Dude just can't seem to stay healthy, and this could honestly be his, swan song.
He's a 29-year-old running back. I mean,
with injury issues.
I was going to say 30 is really the magic number for some of these running backs. So, and then especially with this 49ers offense that can really just about produce running backs from
they can plug and play with any running back that they want. And speaking of plugging and playing, they do make a couple moves within the front office, signing Kerryon Johnson, a guy who 2 or 3 years ago was a running back 1. Like, what the hell?
Revenge game for him. He was on the Eagles for about 3 weeks.
I don't even remember him on the Eagles. Most people know him as a Lion.
I was gonna say he signed there in training camp this offseason, and then he got an injury release, so they signed him to the practice squad. And then Trenton Cannon, who was on the
Ravens.
I was gonna say, if you're away from the Ravens right now with all the running back issues they've been dealing with, he ends up going to the 49ers as well. And their offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, said that Trey Sermon, who was inactive Week 1, another kind of surprising inactive, will be active this upcoming week.
And then Elijah Mitchell, who's probably been the fantasy pickup of the week for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what's going to go on with that?
See, that I wouldn't be surprised, Stein, because people are going to start Elijah Mitchell this week. I wouldn't be surprised with Trey Sermon active. I mean, JaMychal Hasty was active last week, but he'll be active again this upcoming week. With how Shanahan is,
he likes to spite fantasy owners.
Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna get Sermon about a dozen touches in this ball game.
Yeah, Mitchell could have like 2 because everyone's gonna be flocking to pick up Mitchell, and then he's gonna have like 2 touches for like 5 yards or something.
Yeah, I tried trading for Trey Sermon in a couple of my fantasy leagues, seeing if guys would bite, and of course they did.
That's just how it goes. All right, the Eagles had a very successful game against the Falcons. We won't go into that. We already talked about that last week.
I don't want to say it, but they had a bye week 1, and now they're
they had their 4th preseason game, their get right game.
But yeah, the Eagles are going to face a much tougher competition just on both sides of the football. So I think this is going to be kind of a down to earth game for them. We both got the 49ers winning the ball game.
Yeah, fantasy outlook. Interesting with this 49ers offense because we talked with the running backs especially because we talked about how Shanahan could make this really interesting.
If you picked up Elijah Mitchell,
try him out. Try him out.
I would assume that you're gonna have to start him, even if it's just in the flex, just as a third running back out there.
Yeah.
Just the upside is there that if he does get the 20 touches he got last week, that he's gonna end up performing. So
try him out. If he sticks, this could be the move that wins your fantasy league. But
and
we could also see it backfire.
I mean, don't start him over Christian McCaffrey or something like that.
Exactly.
One of your proven running backs. But like I said, if you have a question in your flex spot, I would give him a try.
Yeah.
George Kittle, you're going to start him elite tight end.
Every week.
Debo, great Week 1. Probably not going to, like you said, have that great of a performance. That's kind of high expectations for him, but he still should be a great play
Trending
this upcoming
upward.
week.
Trending upward.
And then I would sit Ayuk just because you're not sure what's going to happen this week.
Yeah, with everything, it seems like they only talk about Ayuk like when they have like press conferences.
Just stash him on your bench. Don't try and trade him away to someone that's trying to buy low on him. Just keep him, have him sit there until he becomes a wide receiver 2.
Eagles wise, Jalen Hurts, great first game. Could we see a great second game? Potentially. We saw what the Lions did to this 49ers offense towards the end.
I would start Jalen Hurts in this ball game. Yes, you have a much tougher defense, but like you said, if they're trailing in this ball game, Hurts should be throwing the ball.
Yeah, we could see
more.
The fourth quarter him really get those 10 extra passing attempts. You
gotta love garbage time fantasy points. So.
Yes. I'm not sure about the running backs.
I'm not high on Miles Sanders, but in terms of where you drafted him, you're probably going to have to start him. I honestly, if you had Miles Sanders and Elijah Mitchell, I might start Elijah Mitchell over Miles Sanders.
I would too, just because I think the 49ers offense is as a whole better than this Eagles offense.
I haven't been high on Miles Sanders this whole offseason. Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott in that backfield as well.
Yeah.
I just don't trust Miles Sanders overall. So if you had to choose between those two, I think I would go Mitchell.
And then looks like the Eagles might have finally gotten it right with Devontae Smith. Finally emerging potentially, and so he's probably a guy you could flex, I would say, and then Dallas Goedert, maybe as your tight end.
Yeah, in terms of pass catchers, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, I think those are both good considerations from this Eagles offense, but no one else from this team.
Yes. All right, a very historical matchup for this next one as the Raiders take on the Steelers. Going to be a gorgeous uniform matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Black and silver versus the black and gold. Steelers are favorited, which is interesting. Raiders coming off that amazing Monday night game. This one's going to be, I think this one's going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders showed what they can do against the Ravens, having that great victory on Monday night. Like you said, the Steelers, who we weren't high on going into the season, having a great victory on the road against the Bills. So I expect this to be maybe a back and forth ball game. But I think the big difference maker could be Josh Jacobs, as he was banged up going into week 1. Coming into this week, he's missed 2 practices with toe and ankle injury. One injury report I saw at one point, it said Josh Jacobs, and then in parentheses, where it shows the injury, it said everything.
That's hilarious.
That's not positive when you have a guy like a running back one on your
especially.
team, and it says everything under his injury designation. So
yeah, and then you Kenyon Drake is a serviceable, running back too for them, so that's not something that they're going to be really missing out on.
They at least have the luxury of having a great handcuff behind him, so if he's able to not suit up on Sunday.
And those Raiders pass catchers looked great on Monday night. I mean,
Darren Waller,
one of them looked great
with 87 targets.
Yeah, Zay Jones had his
had the game-winning touchdown.
Willie Snead plays for the Raiders? I had no idea.
Yeah, I did know that.
That was a Willie Snead revenge game against the
Ravens. Gotta love the revenge games.
But all right, Steelers side of the ball, Najee Harris, terrible week 1. I think it's going to be similar week 2, even though it's not as good. Not even close as good Raiders defense compared to the Bills defense. I just still think this offensive line is not good.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Stein. But with how bad he was week 1, you can't really get much worse than that.
He will be better.
I mean, you saw between Tyson Williams and Lamar run against this Raiders defense. I think Najee will at the very least fall into the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, I could see 10 points from Najee fantasy-wise, but I don't think he's going to have a 130-yard performance.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but like I said, I think something more realistic would maybe be in the 75 to 100-yard range, and like I said, a touchdown. He's out there 100% of the time. I'm pretty sure he took every single snap out there for the Steelers, so he's going to be on the field.
Yeah. Fantasy outlook for this game before we get into our final prediction. The Raiders, even though Josh Jacobs, you want to start him if he's healthy.
If he's active, you have to start him. Kind of like with when we were talking about Miles Sanders, with his situation, just you're drafting him to start basically. So unless you got like an Elijah Mitchell that you picked up in waivers, you're gonna have to start him.
Yeah.
Kenyon Drake, of course, is gonna be a plug and play flex running back 2 if Josh Jacobs is inactive. And then besides that, the only other guy I'd start for the Raiders is Darren Waller.
He had over 20,
I think he had 19 targets in the ball 20 game.
Targets on Monday. That just shows how much that Derek Carr likes to go to him. Carr could be a potential streamer, but Steelers have a good defense.
I was gonna say I don't like it. The Steelers shut down Josh Allen in week 1. I'm not confident in Derek Carr.
Yeah, Josh Allen is better than Derek Carr. Carr's not getting enough credit.
That's a bold take right there.
I will say that Carr's not getting enough credit.
He's always been undervalued as a fantasy guy, but I just would not trust him in this week 2 matchup.
Steelers wise, we did say that we both think that Najee will be better. We don't think he's going to be amazing, but he will be better.
Well, once again, just like Josh Jacobs, you drafted Najee at the end of the first round, early second round, so there's probably not a better option on your bench to start over him. And like I said, I think he's going to have a bounce back performance compared to what he did in week 1, so I would give him the start. In terms of the Steelers receivers, we mentioned it in their week 1 matchup, Deontay, Juju, Claypool. I would start all of them and then just hope one of them ends up benefiting the most from it. Claypool's going to be your biggest boom bust guy. Juju and Deontay both got the targets last week. Claypool only had like 3 catches for 45 yards. So if you're playing Claypool, you're just hoping that he gets a touchdown.
Deontay a little shaken up last week, so but will be is fully good, ready to go. Steelers defense could be a good option, especially because this. This Josh Jacobs injury is looking as it is right now.
And then, like I said, the Steelers defense was a great option against the Bills. Against the Raiders, I think they got to be a great option as well.
Yeah.
And then stream Big Ben in this game as well. Like I said, I think the Raiders defense is not that good. Big Ben had a subpar performance against the Bills, but I think he could rebound, and he's definitely worth a stream.
Andrew has the Steelers. I'm personally taking the Raiders, and I think that they're going to ride their Monday night wave into this game. I mean, that's the kind of game that can really inspire a team to play like they need to, because they lost that game like once or twice, even though they won that game.
They had their 9 lives as a cat.
Yeah, exactly. John Gruden even was saying that described his team as a cat. And it's just a historical game. I could see the Raiders kind of pulling the, I would say, upset. But this one will be close. This will not be a either way, an ass kicking either way.
Yeah, I just think the Steelers' defense is so strong after the great performance that they had week 1. I think the offense is going to rebound from kind of a subpar week 1 performance against this mediocre Raiders defense. So I've got the Steelers at home coming away with the victory.
All right. We got another divisional matchup. So we're finally moving into some more divisional matchups. Saints taking on the Panthers. Panthers back-to-back home games. Saints pretty much the road warriors of this season. I mean, as we've seen thus far.
Yeah, coming off the surprising week 1 blowout against the Packers. Panthers getting the week 1 victory against the New York Jets.
Yep.
For the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out a couple weeks with a thumb injury that he sustained last week. It's been a roller coaster week for him because he had the thumb injury right before the game. It was either right before or right after the game. He signed a 5-year, almost $100 million extension with the Saints.
Extension.
Yeah, so like I said, up and down week for him is he's going to miss some time, but he did get the big deal as their number 1 corner for the Saints team.
Yeah. Also, center Eric McCoy and Marcus Davenport for the Saints are going to be are down a little bit too. Could miss some time. Really the story with the Saints is going to be Jameis and what this offense is going to be able to do. A lot of people are predicting that this offense won't be able to replicate.
It's pretty tough to replicate a 38-point outscoring
against the Packers, who we both think is a really good team, and especially as efficient as Jameis was. I think he probably had the best QBR overall for any quarterbacks.
Yeah, and against the Panthers defense, which is a little bit underrated, they've got a couple of nice young guys on the defensive side of the football. So this will definitely be a test for the Saints to see what they can do and see if they can repeat that performance on offense. So
yeah, this one could go either way. This game could go either way because on one hand we don't think the Saints are going to be as good as they were week 1. And on the other hand, it's the Panthers, but the Saints are still good, but the Panthers looked pretty good week 1 too.
Yeah, I mean, and then you also have to think it's like the Panthers only won 19-14
and they
against
beat
the
Jets. Yeah.
So you take that into consideration, but I've got the Panthers winning this one at home, Stein. I don't know. I just feel like as high as the Saints were after that week 1 victory, I feel like they're gonna come back down to earth, and this is just like almost like a trap scenario in terms of, oh, the Saints were that good, like you got to pick them in this ball game.
Yeah,
so
I see your logic there, but I am taking the Saints. I think that they did look very surprisingly good week 1, and then I think the Panthers are not as good. Like I'm falling into the trap. The Panthers aren't as good as the Packers. And I think they'll be able to. I don't think it's going to be as much of an ass kicking as the Packers game was. I think this game is going to be a little bit closer, but I do see the Saints edging just because they're more talented on all sides of the ball.
Yeah, this one, if the Saints end up winning this ball game, it's one I'm not surprised. This is probably my biggest upset of the week.
Yeah.
Fantasy outlook for the Saints, you're starting Kamara, of course, as a top tier running back.
Yeah, and Jameis was probably a huge pickup this week for a lot of people.
Yeah, for any quarterback needy team. So if you end up picking him up, he's definitely worth a stream, even against a decent Carolina defense.
Yeah. Saints receivers,
stay away.
Yeah,
Marquez Callaway, he only had 1 catch last week. Adam Troutman had 3 receptions. Just stay away from all those guys until you see what they do when they're actually trailing in a ball game and have to pass more than 20 times.
Yeah, see who emerges really for that offense. Panthers, I mean, what can be said that hasn't been said about Christian McCaffrey?
Let's bench Christian McCaffrey in this game. No, you're starting CMC. You're going to start both their wide receivers with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And I would honestly take a look at streaming Darnold. I think he's more of a consideration for a superflex type league or a 2 QB league. But, Darnold wasn't awful in his week 1 performance. He showed that when you have weapons and a good coaching staff that you can actually be an okay quarterback in this league.
Yeah, definitely. Not a bad option there. All right, the last game of the 1 o'clock window, and this game is going to be battle of 2 teams, and you got the
that's probably the best way to describe it. Just you got the 1-0 Broncos, who got the benefit of playing the Giants in week 1, and then the Jaguars coming off the rough week 1 performance against the Texans.
This is going to be that game on Red Zone that they're not going to show at all. They might show 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's not going to be showed much. The Broncos, of course, losing Jerry Jeudy to that high ankle sprain. He's supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah. So you're looking at Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler to replace him as that second receiver behind Courtland Sutton. You're looking for Courtland Sutton to step up. He only had a couple catches last week, of course, recovering from his injury from last season.
Yeah, really interesting, and just for the Jags wise, because a lot of teams we've seen have the first overall pick, especially as sure of a thing as Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be. Not a lot of hype at all around on any kind of media. You would think that the Jags would have a primetime game or something like that, but really no hype. And this just goes to show, especially a matchup against a Broncos team that is coming off a good win against a bad team. So, for that reason, I'm taking the Broncos. But, maybe we could see the Jags turn it around.
Yeah, the Jaguars are playing at home. Trevor didn't look great last week, but I'm expecting the Jaguars to bounce back in this game. I mean, the Broncos aren't... obviously, the Texans were expected to be the worst team in the league, and they didn't look good against them, but the Broncos aren't that good of a football team, I don't think. So I've got the Jaguars I'm picking the upset in this one since the Broncos are a 6-point favorite, but I've got them winning in week 1. I don't know. I feel like Trevor could be much better just having his first week of the regular season under his belt, and I think they could find a way at home to just squeak away with a game-winning field goal or something.
Texans fans, I owe y'all an apology. I said y'all were going to go 0-17. Y'all didn't. I'll take my licks for that. I have a new team that's going to go 0-17.
I would say, but when they go 2-15, is it really that much of a difference?
But I've shifted my, I would say, allegiances to the Jags because this team is looking like a dumpster fire already, and that's not on the players. That is going to be in the staff with the coaching. Urban Meyer, there's already rumors that there's discontent, which is never a good sign for a team that is basically treading water to be relevant.
Well, and then not only that, rumors of him going to USC to take the college football job. He said there's no chance of him taking that job, but just to have all those rumors around Urban is just it's not good for an organization.
They're posting stuff on Twitter saying, he's sticking with us. When you have to do that week 2, it's just not going to be good. Could we see something where Urban pulls his golden parachute by week 9 or something when this team is 1 something like that?
Yeah, once again, I'm not confident in picking the Jaguars, but I'm just trying to go away from picking all chalk.
I was surprised that you picked that. I understand you didn't want all chalk, but even the Broncos with their not as good as, not a great team at all, I think they're better than the Texans, and that's why I think the Broncos win this one.
Sometimes the best team doesn't end up winning on a given week. So.
We saw that with the Falcons and the Eagles.
So in terms of fantasy, every single person of relevance is going to be a risky start.
Yeah.
Teddy, people probably picked him up because he had a decent performance against the Giants. Got another bad defense, so maybe stream him. I picked him up in a league where I actually had Trevor Lawrence starting for me week 1, and I've got him starting over Trevor. He's definitely worth a consideration.
Gordon had a surprising game. Yeah, a surprising good game, but risky just because
he's splitting time with Javonte Williams, so I wouldn't give either of them a start. Yeah. If you do, it's going to be risky.
Sutton might be the most sure thing of any of these guys,
but once again, he only had 2 catches last week, so he's definitely risky. I would say the most sure thing is starting the Broncos defense, just because how bad the Jaguars offense looked in week 1. I think the Broncos defense is worth a consideration, but everyone on the Jaguars side, I mentioned with Trevor, James Robinson getting out-touched by Carlos Hyde, that's definitely concerning, starting him.
Laviska Shenault was just gadgety,
Yeah, Shenault and Chark both got 10-plus targets because Trevor threw the ball 51 times. Shenault is definitely the safer play compared to Chark, who had a long touchdown. But all these guys are risky in this matchup. You're kind of putting them in your lineup and saying a prayer that they get a touchdown.
Yeah. All right. To the 4 o'clock window, we got 2 405s and 2 425s.
We got that split look that neither of us like.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, because just games are going to be going longer. But the first one is the Vikings coming off their loss against the Bengals, going against the 1-0 Cardinals. Kind of the darlings of week 1, I would say the Cardinals.
Probably the best looking team, get the team MVP award from week 1. Kyler, of course, looking amazing, going to try and build off that great performance. And then the Cardinals defense after Chandler Jones with the 5 sacks. Another tough test at the running back position. They shut down Derrick Henry, 17 carries for 58 yards. Now they got to face another top 5 running back.
They go last year's 1 and 2 rushers, I'm pretty sure, with Derrick.
Yeah, I think you're right
Dalvin. Back-to-back weeks. So it's pretty much the same game plan, going against this Vikings offense who really did not look great against the Bengals, bad defense. So I think the Cardinals defense is going to be able to, I don't think they're going to have 5 sacks. I don't think Chandler Jones is going to replicate.
They could have 5 sacks as a team, maybe.
But not personally from Chandler Jones. Cardinals defense is looking better, so I think
they were the number 1 scoring fantasy defense last week.
Yeah, 5 sacks helps, but
5 sacks and a defensive touchdown or special teams touchdown.
Yeah, and some fumble stuff. Fantasy-wise, let's talk about it. I still think the Vikings have some options, especially with Dalvin.
I was going to say, they've got the names on there, so
Justin,
you're going to start Dalvin,
Thielen.
JF.
Thielen was great. Christian... you talk about Kirk. I was like, on the notes.
I did a double take on that as well. Yeah, so I put stream Kirk, not Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, and I said that because he has the potential to get some garbage time points like he did last week against the Bengals with throwing the ball 40, almost 50 times in the ball game. So I think he's definitely worth a stream consideration. On the Cardinals side of the football, you're of course going to start Kyler. Start Chase Edmonds. James Conner I'd stay away from. Edmonds is definitely the 1A in this backfield and getting receiving work as well. You're going to start DeAndre Hopkins, of course. And then, like I said, the Cardinals' defense was the number 1 defense last week. I think you can fire them up again, even against this Vikings team.
Yeah, pretty similar offense to the Titans' offense. So I would say Tannehill and Kirk Cousins are similar, and then Derrick Henry and then AJ Brown, and compared to Justin Jefferson,
very similar in terms of the style and talent wise. So
for that reason, we're both taking the Cardinals. We're picking the chalk here. It's a home game for them, so that's going to give them also an advantage.
Yeah. Moving on to the other 4:05 game, you have the Falcons coming off the rough week 1 against the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who got the last-second win on Thursday night to kick off the season against the Cowboys. And the Bucs are the heavy favorite at home in this ball game.
12.5. That is huge.
This is going to be a rough one to watch.
I'm already predicting. We're both just saying we both have the Bucs.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a Falcons rough week.
Pick with your head, not with your heart, Stein.
Even my heart says the Falcons don't have it.
Oh no!
It's just I don't even have like a glimmer of hope. And I think that's going to be. I think we're going to be talking about the offensive line of the Falcons compared to the defensive line of the Bucs.
They said it on 92.9 a couple of days ago when I was listening on the radio that it will take a Herculean effort for the Falcons to come away with a victory in this ball game. A couple of headlines though on the Bucs side, as they're dealing with some injuries in their secondary. Sean Murphy-Bunting, dislocated elbow, so he's going to be out a couple weeks. Jordan Whitehead, who missed the game week 1, is expected to play this upcoming week. Remember, this is a Bucs defense that allowed over 400 passing yards to the Cowboys week 1, so kind of a 1-for-1 trade-off there. And then running back position is just a 3-headed monster. Bruce Arians said that Ronald Jones, after going in the doghouse with a fumble week 1, is going to be the quote-unquote starter for this week 2 matchup, but he also came out and said yesterday that
Gio's a starter.
I was going to say that he's got 3 starting running backs when you talk about Fournette and Gio Bernard, so just a messy situation for this Bucs running game, but a great matchup for them against the Falcons defense.
And worth noting, Brady is, I hate to say this, is 8-0 versus the Falcons. That might make, I might have to throw up after that saying that.
We'll take a quick break and
Jesus, that just makes me sad. Have you seen the new Brady Subway commercial?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't been like focusing when watching the commercial.
Yeah, we've probably been texting during that. But I say the best case scenario for the Falcons in this game is going to be let Matt cook. Let Matt throw to Calvin. Let Matt throw to Kyle Pitts.
Please let him have more than 150 passing yards that he had last week.
I think that's the best case scenario for this Falcons offense. If the Falcons score 21 plus, and then Pitts finally does what he needs to do, and Calvin does what he needs to do, even though the Falcons probably could give up 35 plus, that would be a success for me, because at least it shows that Pitts was worth it and that this offense is still going to be capable. Defensively, though, for the Falcons, it's Brady. He's going to be taking you. He's going to be taking you apart, and I just need a shower after talking about this.
Yeah, fantasy-wise, like you mentioned with Ridley and Pitts, those are really the only guys you can start.
That's going to be the most... Yeah, if the Falcons can get those guys going, that will be a success, and that will make me happy. If those guys struggle, Roach,
it might be a very somber week 2 recap.
I might have to give up football for a little bit. It might be Hawk season for me.
It'll be a one-man show when we're talking about the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
But on the Bucs side of the football, you're going to start pretty much everyone. Brady.
I have Godwin starting, so.
Probably start both the running backs just because they're going to be running the football a lot.
Yeah, Giovanni Bernard, though, is not the one guy. The odd man out.
Yeah, definitely. Evans, Godwin, AB, Gronk, all those pass catchers you're going to be starting, and the Bucs defense you're going to be starting as well. Like you said, predict a massacre and hope for it to stay close. I think it's pretty much how you're going.
Just hope the Falcons offense takes a necessary step. Defensively, though, it's going to be rough, and I feel bad for Grady and Dion because those guys are going to be having a rough time. All right, the 425 games, and we got of course, the Cowboys in a 425 game, probably on Fox, taking on the Chargers in SoFi Stadium. Second game in SoFi Stadium. You think is there a game every week in SoFi Stadium?
There honestly might be. They probably have like 1 week maybe where like one team's on a bye and the other one's on the road, where they're not both. One team isn't playing.
I heard something on the TV the other day. They called it Sci-Fi Stadium.
I like that, but. The Cowboys, of course, like we mentioned, coming off the Week 1 loss against the Bucs. Chargers getting the victory against the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Cowboys already dealing with a lot of injuries, as the biggest one being DeMarcus Lawrence, their big name on the defensive front, out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken foot. They're also supposed to be missing their other defensive end, Randy Gregory, who's in COVID protocols.
It's nice that Randy Gregory's out with COVID. I mean, I don't want someone to be out with COVID, but it's nice he's not out with a suspension or something now.
And then on the offensive side of the football, Michael Gallup got hurt Week 1. He's missing 3 to 5 weeks with a calf
He's going to be,
injury.
I heard, even longer recently.
And then Lael Collins is suspended 5 games.
For PEDs.
No, apparently Schefter said that he failed to appear to a scheduled drug test, which... well, I mean, I guess you would assume if he's going to miss drug tests, then he's got something where he doesn't want to show up on there.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe his piss guy was.
I was going to say, that's Schefter said that he apparently missed scheduled drug tests, so that's a big loss to them. They're supposed to get Zach Martin back. He got activated off the COVID list, so kind of a 1-for-1 trade-off there. But the Cowboys already going down on the offensive and defensive side of the football. The Chargers, like we said, facing a much easier defense. The Cowboys defense instead of the Washington football team defense.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, the Chargers are going to come away with the victory.
Yeah, I have the Chargers too, and I think that's just because Cowboys just have so many things trending in the wrong direction for them on their team. I think a healthy Cowboys team might make it close, but the fact that the Chargers are rearing to go, they're at home, everyone looked pretty good Week 1 for them. So I just think it's going to be the Chargers game to win.
Yeah, in terms of fantasy, like you said, fire up just about all their guys on offense. You're going to start Herbert. You're going to start Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, even start Jared Cook.
Yeah.
Had a great first week in his first game with the Chargers. And then stream Mike Williams. He got 10-plus targets last week and had a really good ball game.
Yeah.
So
underrated offensive line, too, for this Chargers.
Yeah, completely rebuilt. We talked about it during the Week 1 recap, how they shut down the front four of Washington football team.
Speaking of offensive lines, though, Zach Martin will be back for the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. So that might, Zeke owners, that might help you a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you trade out Zach Martin for Lael Collins. Fantasy-wise for them, you're going to start Dak after the great Week 1 performance. Zeke, you're going to have to start him.
Still keep similar story to Saquon.
Yeah, you're just going to, with draft him in the first round, you're going to have to just suffer if he ends up having another bad week.
Yeah.
And then CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, start both of them.
Both after great games should similar, especially with Michael Gallup going out. Both guys should have similar production, if not garbage time production from this game. But like we said, we both got the Chargers. And then the final one, 4:00 game. This game could have been a primetime game, honestly. Seahawks at Chargers.
Titans at Seahawks. There you go. Kind of mixing between the two games.
I saw Chargers on the thing, and just mine, spoke before the thing.
But the Titans coming off a rough Week 1 against the Cardinals. Seahawks getting the win against the Colts. The big story for the Titans. So you know how Ryan Tannehill resurrected his career, going from the Dolphins to the Titans. They only used play action 11.6% of their Week 1 offensive plays compared to 36.4% in 2020 with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. So maybe go back to more of that play action style of offense that made Tannehill successful, that made Derrick Henry so lethal. We'll see what they end up doing in this Week 2 matchup against a tough Seahawks team who looked really good Week 1.
Yeah, this is really good matchup. Even though records, have the Titans with the loss and the Seahawks with the win, I think these two teams are pretty, balanced overall. I do think the Seahawks offense is better than the Titans defense.
Oh yeah, much better.
Yeah, Titans offense and the Seahawks defense. Titans offense, I do think, is better than the Seahawks defense, though. So that's kind of this game. That's why I think this game is pretty even. I just want to see Derrick Henry do what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, 17 carries, 58 yards. You expect much better from Derrick Henry at the running back position. Hopefully he'll be able to bounce back. But I've got the Seahawks winning this ball game at home. Even though this is a great bounce back game for the Titans, I think this is the wrong competitor, I guess you could say, if they maybe had an easier week 2 matchup.
Why couldn't they play the Jags or something?
But I think this is just another tough test for them, and with how good the Seahawks looked, even with the new offensive coordinator, I think that they're just going to have too much offense, even for the Titans offense to keep up with.
I got the Titans winning this game, and I think it's just going to be on the back of them trying to control the football more. Very similar style offense with the Cardinals comparing to the Seahawks. I mean, honestly, the entire AFC West is all similar except for maybe the Niners offensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think they're going to be upset. They're going to be trying to do what worked, and I think it's going to be overall a little bit too much. I really do like both of these teams, though, and I hate to see one team winning over the others.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that part. Fantasy-wise, for the Titans, you're going to start Tannehill, you're going to start Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and even Julio. Julio's going to be a risky start for you, but you probably don't have a better option to start in his place.
It's funny, battle of the Ole Miss receivers with DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. Both guys are super similar style.
Yeah, on the Seahawks side, of course, you're going to start DK. You're going to start Tyler Lockett as well. Chris Carson and Russell Wilson, all of them getting a start. Gerald Everett had a touchdown in his first week with the Seahawks. You could stream him just because of the tight end position. Hope he gets another touchdown. And the Seahawks defense, I think, is startable, but you just don't want the Titans to have their 2020 offensive performance in this game against the Seahawks defense. So I think that they're
they're going to get it right, and you don't want them to get it right against the Seahawks.
Yeah. So let's hop into the last game on Sunday night in a great matchup, especially two great quarterbacks. When you talk about the Chiefs coming off the Week 1 victory against the Browns, traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens.
I can already picture the graphic that they're going to have. You know, the graphics team on Sunday Night Football always have those cool graphics between Lamar and Patrick Mahomes. This is pretty much the battle of Lamar versus Mahomes, even though there's 52 other guys on both sides of the ball.
That's all we're going to hear about during the ball game.
Exactly. Lamar is 0-3 in his career versus Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and they've lost by double digits, I think, if not all three of them, I think in 2 of the 3 ball games. So the Chiefs have really dominated this quarterback matchup.
Yeah.
And I think it could be the same thing, even though the Chiefs have to travel on the road for this one. The Ravens, of course, still banged up at the running back position.
And then now they're going to be banged up on the offensive side of the ball, offensive line. Tyree Phillips is placed on IR, and then Ronnie Staley, the big one, is going to be out for this game, potentially.
I was going to say, I don't think he's been ruled out yet, but he is banged up.
All signs are pointing towards it. So Alejandro Villanueva is going to be flipping over, and they did not look great against the Raiders.
Yeah, Villanueva didn't look good week 1. With the running backs, they promoted Devontae Freeman from the practice squad. Le'Veon Bell's still on the practice squad, so right now they're planning on rotating the 3 guys in and out between Devontae, Latavius Murray, and Tyson Williams. So we'll kind of see how the touches get distributed between those 3 guys, as Williams was great in the first half and then barely saw the ball in the second half of their Monday night game.
Yeah, I would say there's only so much that Lamar can do. I mean, now also Hollywood Brown is dealing with an injury.
Yeah.
He was so...
This is like the 49ers from last season all over again for Baltimore. It's supposed to be a high-powered offense, but just losing guys left and right.
I mean, this is going to be a patchwork offense going against such a strong Chiefs team that's pretty much doing everything, it needed to do against a really good Browns team last week.
Mm-hmm.
Similar case. Ravens do have it at home, but I just think it's going to be the Chiefs just because they're just way better of a team right now than an injured Ravens team.
Yeah.
I think if this Ravens team was fully healthy, I think it'd be a lot closer of a game, but I still think the Chiefs edge it.
Yeah, I agree with you right there, Stein. Just going with the Chiefs in this one. Just too high-powered of an offense, and the Ravens, with all the problems that they've got on the offensive side, I think it's going to be too much to deal with, and the Chiefs have a decent defense as well.
Yeah.
Fantasy-wise, you're, of course, going to start Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce.
You've been doing that all
the normal
season.
suspects on the Chiefs side of the football. On the Ravens side, you're going to start Lamar. Hollywood, if he's active, I would play
keep
him.
eyes on him.
If he's inactive, Sammy Watkins could be a great play. He was kind of a 1A, 1B Hollywood and Sammy last week, so I think both could be considered for a start. Sammy especially if Hollywood's out.
Yep.
Mark Andrews had the dud in week 1. You're hoping he responds in week 2 because you drafted him as a top 10 or top 5 tight end. And then the running back situation is going to be risky. Tyson Williams, I think, definitely has the most upside and is the most talented, but it's whether or not they give him the touches that he really deserves in that backfield.
And we saw Lat Murray with, some good runs last week.
He had a touchdown last week.
Last week, but, this is not the Raiders' defense. This is the Chiefs' defense, which is better. Mm-hmm. Not amazing, but better.
Yeah.
So, there's just going to be risky plays. Especially with when a team has an injury bug, that it affects everyone.
Oh yeah, and it's been going around the Ravens locker room right now.
Yeah.
But
so we both have the Chiefs. Let's move on to the Monday night game. The Lions go up to Lambeau.
Yeah, 2-0-1 teams, the Lions and the Packers. The Packers an 11-point favorite on Monday night, coming off a 38. How many times has a team lost by 35 then been favored by 10 plus in their next ball game?
When you face the Lions, that tends to happen.
Yeah, so the Packers, of course, the big headline being Aaron Rodgers and that whole offense's performance. In week 1 against the Saints, this is probably the best matchup and best opponent that you could draw up in week 2 after having such a bad performance the Detroit Lions.
This is that college game where you play week 1 against Alabama as Miami, and then you're like, oh, great.
And then week 2 you play the Division 3 matchup where you're paying the team $1.5 million.
Yeah, you got Kennesaw State, FCS school, to get that get right game. It's at home for the Packers. It's gonna be. I don't know if it's going to be cold or not. It's still September in Lambeau.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but if the Packers end up rebounding like a lot of people think they will and play like they're supposed to and that people thought of going into the season, then this shouldn't be a close ball game.
Not at all. I think if the Packers do end up losing this, we're going to officially put them into panic mode.
Oh, 100%.
We'll be past panic mode with that. But
we're gonna go. We're in concern after the week 1 performance. Yeah, it will definitely go into panic mode if they lose this one at home to the Lions.
There could be talks about blowing it up after that. So, the Packers are going to be looking to get right. You're going to have Aaron Rodgers, who's probably not going to be as bad as he was.
Yeah, you got to start Aaron Rodgers fantasy-wise. You got to start Aaron Jones, hoping he rebounds. Devontae Adams as well, and Robert Tonyan at tight end. You're probably going to start him too. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of other receivers besides Adams, stream MVS, just hoping he gets a long touchdown in the ball game. He got missed on a couple of deep shots last week, but he's always going to be a dart throw to hopefully get like a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah. For the Lions, we saw Goff throw the ball way too much last week. And kept it close. Almost came back, but that was, I think, just flukiness.
Yeah, I would stay away from him. I would start Swift and start Hawkinson. Of course, those guys are Swift, the leading running back, Hawkinson, the leading receiver.
Yeah,
Swift
was also leading receiver too.
I was going to say he's going to get receiving work as well, and that's why I would stream Jamal Williams, just because they should be trailing in this ball game, and Williams he had 8 catches last week, so just hope in terms of PPR that he gets those looks again with them trailing in the ball game.
And with Tyrell Williams placed in concussion protocol, there's no guarantee with him.
Yeah, he's questionable this week, so if you want to throw a dart throw on St. Brown or Quintez Cephas, be my guest. I would stay away from anyone else besides Hawkinson in terms of receiving the football.
Yeah.
We both have Packers in this ball game, and that puts our total at 4 games different against Stein, so could come down to a tiebreaker again, but at least this one will be decided by the end of the 4 o'clock games. We'll know who ended up winning this week 2 matchup. So
yeah, we won't have to wait till the Monday night game, so that's good, but I'll have to make I've made my TikTok.
Yeah.
I just realized that we're doing it.
It's all right. We'll put it in there and post anyway. But yes, that's gonna do it for our week 2 preview. Good luck to all y'all's fantasy teams this upcoming week in week 2, and just enjoy another Sunday full and jam-packed of football.
Yeah, Saturday also on the college side should be some decent matchups. I do like this real quickly. Auburn, Penn State. That's probably going to be the best matchup.
That's the biggest game.
Yeah.
I think that's where game day is this upcoming week in Happy Valley. So
enjoy that one on Saturday. Just a great football weekend. High school tonight, college on Saturday. NFL on Sunday.
It's officially fall
All
time.
is right in the world. It's getting a little bit chillier outside, so just everything's trending upwards right now, guys.
Yeah, but thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to this channel, follow us on Instagram at the Couch Quarterbacks for all updates on when we'll be posting, and also making some reels on.
Yeah, check out the reels.
Yeah,
Roach
for your
has
fantasy teams.
Roach has been kicking ass with reels, and my TikTok will be up there potentially.
But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on the flip side.
Deuces.